Hey Reddit, I've spent countless hours on this sub, never in a million years did I think I'd be writing my own. But here I am. I'm Michael, 30M. I own a modest but successful restaurant. It's my lifeblood. I built it from the ground up, starting with nothing but a dream, a mountain of debt, and endless hours of backbreaking work. For years, I lived in a tiny studio apartment above the restaurant, working 80-hour weeks, pouring every spare cent back into the business. It paid off. The restaurant now clears about $95,000 a year after expenses, not millionaire status, but a comfortable, stable income that was entirely self-made. 4 years ago, I met Bethany, 29F. It was at a local business networking event, ironically. She was an assistant manager at an upscale boutique, always impeccably dressed, polished, and with this incredible knack for making everyone around her feel special. She had this radiant smile, an infectious laugh, and she seemed genuinely interested in my ambition, my story, my restaurant. I was captivated. What began as casual dates quickly escalated. We became inseparable. I thought I had found someone truly special. My sister, Phoebe, 32F, always had a good read on people. When I introduced her to Bethany, Phoebe was polite but reserved. Later, she pulled me aside. "Michael," she said, her brow furrowed, "she seems very polished. And she asks a lot about the restaurant's profits. Just be careful. Make sure her interest is in you, not what you've built." I brushed it off. "You're just being protective, Phoebe. She's amazing." I was blinded by what I thought was love. Looking back, the red flags were everywhere, waving wildly, but I was too infatuated, too naive, or perhaps too proud of what I had to offer, to see them for what they were. Bethany never, ever offered to pay. Not once. Our first date, at a trendy restaurant she picked, cost me $190. I chalked it up to a special occasion. But it became a pattern. Dinners out, weekend trips, concert tickets, it was always on my dime. She'd say, "Oh, I forgot my purse," or "My card keeps declining, can you get it?" I paid, happy to splurge on the woman I loved, dismissing the nagging voice in my head. My best friend, Sam, 30M, was more direct than Phoebe. He'd known me since we were kids, seen me claw my way up from nothing. "Dude," he said one night, watching Bethany scroll through expensive fashion websites on my tablet, "she lives a trust fund lifestyle, and you're no trust fund. Are you sure you're not making a mistake?" I got defensive. "She just appreciates nice things, Sam. What's wrong with that?" He just sighed and shook his head. Despite the warnings, despite the subtle unease, I was in deep. On our 3-year anniversary, I decided to propose. I spent a significant chunk of my carefully saved money that was earmarked for a down payment on a house, on a beautiful, custom-designed engagement ring. It cost me $12,000. I got down on one knee, nervously, at our favorite park. She cried, she said yes, and I felt a wave of relief and exhilaration wash over me. I thought this was finally it. We were truly building a life together. The wedding planning began immediately, and it quickly spiraled into a colossal, expensive affair. Bethany had visions of grandeur, a destination wedding, a designer gown, a top-tier caterer, a string quartet. The budget, initially discussed at a reasonable $20,000, quickly ballooned to $48,000. Her parents, who I now realize were barely scraping by, grudgingly offered $10,000, but insisted on having control over every single detail, micromanaging everything from the floral arrangements to the seating chart. It became a source of constant stress, but Bethany just smiled and said, "It's our special day, Michael. It has to be perfect." I absorbed the financial pressure, taking on extra shifts at the restaurant, dipping further into my savings. I was exhausted, but I told myself it was worth it for our future. And there was one more thing. A big surprise. I had secretly been saving for a house, something special for us. I'd found the perfect place, put down a significant down payment, using the remainder of those savings I was supposed to be spending on the wedding, plus a loan from my parents I was meticulously repaying. It was going to be a wedding gift, a surprise for Bethany, a symbol of our forever. I was closing on it just weeks before the wedding. Oh, the irony. The wedding was just 2 weeks away. The stress was immense, but I was pushing through, fueled by the thought of finally being married to the woman I loved, moving into our new home, and starting our lives together. One Tuesday, I finished up early at the restaurant. It was rare, but I decided to surprise Bethany with takeout from her favorite Italian place. I called her, pretending I was still at work, and then quietly let myself into our apartment, armed with a bag full of pasta and tiramisu. I walked into the living room, and I heard her voice from the bedroom. She was on the phone, laughing. It wasn't her normal laugh, it was a higher-pitched, almost giddy cackle. And then I heard the words that instantly froze me in my tracks, causing the takeout bag to slide from my numb fingers, hitting the floor with a soft thud. "Oh my God, Emily," Bethany was saying, still laughing. "He has no idea. He thinks we're going to live happily ever after. Can you believe it? The minute we get back from the honeymoon, I'm filing for divorce. I mean, seriously, can you imagine? I'll finally be free. And rich." My blood ran cold. Divorce? After the honeymoon? Rich? Then she continued, oblivious. "I'll clear out our joint accounts first, obviously. He's been putting so much money in there for the wedding, for the house he doesn't know about yet. Oh, he's so clueless. And then, bam. Half of everything. The restaurant, the new house, all mine. He's too stupid to get a prenup, bless his little heart." She cackled again. "He thinks he's buying me a home. He's buying us a home. But it'll be my home soon enough." In that moment, everything clicked into place with sickening clarity. The financial disparity, her disinterest in anything but my money, the secretive phone calls, the late nights she worked but refused to discuss, the sudden lack of intimacy in our relationship as the wedding drew closer. It all made perfect, horrible sense. I wasn't her fiancé, I was her mark. Her victim. I was being set up for financial ruin. The woman I was about to marry, the woman I loved, was planning to take everything I had worked for, divorce me immediately after our honeymoon, and laugh all the way to the bank. A wave of icy calm washed over me, overriding the initial shock and crushing heartbreak. There was no time for tears, no time for confrontation. I had to act. And I had to act fast, and with absolute precision. I quietly backed out of the apartment, leaving the untouched takeout bag on the welcome mat. I got into my car, drove aimlessly for an hour, then went straight to Sam's place. I walked in, probably looking like a ghost. "She's planning to divorce me after the honeymoon and take everything," I said, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. "She wants the restaurant, the new house, all the money." Sam listened, his face slowly turning from concern to cold fury. "Okay," he said, after I laid out everything I'd heard, "we're going to fix this. But you have to be smart. You have to be calm. And you have to act completely normal around her." Over the next few weeks, Sam and I devised a meticulous, silent escape plan. It was a masterclass in stealth and strategic withdrawal. New bank accounts. First thing the next morning, I opened new, separate bank accounts that Bethany had no knowledge of, and immediately began redirecting all my direct deposits there. I transferred all funds from our joint savings into a new account she couldn't access, leaving only enough to cover immediate bills in the old one. Asset documentation. I meticulously documented every single one of my assets. The restaurant's financials, my personal investments, bank statements, the deed to the new house, everything. I scanned it all, saved it to multiple cloud drives, and also put hard copies in a safe deposit box. Wedding vendor agreements. Sam, being a whiz with contracts, helped me review every single wedding vendor agreement. We identified cancellation clauses, payment schedules, and any loopholes. We quietly started canceling services that had minimal or no cancellation fees, claiming family emergency or unforeseen circumstances. Moving personal items. Every night, after Bethany went to bed, I would quietly pack a box of my personal belongings, clothes, sentimental items, important documents, anything valuable. Sam would then swing by, and we'd load it into his truck and take it to my parents' garage, which they had generously offered as a temporary storage space. My parents, after hearing the truth from Sam, I couldn't bring myself to say it all again, were horrified and fully on board. The house. I expedited the closing on the new house. I transferred all necessary funds into the new separate bank account. The house would be solely in my name, with no indication of Bethany on any paperwork. The facade. This was the hardest part. I had to act completely normal. Loving. Excited for the wedding. "Sweetheart," I'd say, "I can't wait for our honeymoon." While secretly draining our joint accounts. The wedding is going to be perfect, while silently canceling caterers. It was agonizing, but necessary. I was playing a part, and I played it well. I even planned the timing of my final move strategically. Bethany's bachelorette weekend was scheduled for the weekend before the wedding. It was a 3-day trip to Vegas with her bridesmaids, a perfect distraction. The day Bethany left for her bachelorette party, I sprang into action. I had already arranged for movers to come first thing. My apartment was basically a shell, all my important belongings already at my parents' or in the new house. The movers arrived. It took them less than 2 hours to clear out the few remaining pieces of my furniture, my remaining clothes, and the last of my personal effects. I kept only the items I owned before we moved in together, legally ensuring they were mine. Before leaving the empty apartment for good, I had one final, satisfying touch. I found a piece of paper, grabbed a marker, and wrote a simple, clear message. Wed's cancelled. I heard your call. Underneath, for good measure, I drew a perfectly executed middle finger. I taped the note to the empty fridge, where she couldn't possibly miss it. I then drove straight to my new house. The moment I walked into the empty rooms, the sense of relief that washed over me was almost physical. It was over. I had dodged a bullet. A massive, financially ruinous bullet. I was free. The phone call started almost immediately the next day. Bethany, back from her bachelorette party, likely confused by the empty apartment and my note. First, furious texts. Michael, what the hell is this? Where are you? This isn't funny. Then, panicked calls. My accounts are empty. What did you do? Then, desperate, tearful voicemails, suddenly playing the victim. How could you do this to me? We're getting married. I love you. I remained silent. I blocked her number. I blocked her on all social media. She tried to contact me through Sam, Phoebe, and even my parents, but they all stood firm, refusing to pass on her messages. She even showed up at my restaurant. One evening, she stormed in, dressed in her bridal gown, yes, really, making a scene, screaming my name, accusing me of ruining her life. I calmly walked out from the kitchen, looked her straight in the eye, and without saying a single word, turned around and walked back into the kitchen, letting my manager handle calling the police. She was escorted out, humiliated. The restaurant staff, who had always liked me, gave me knowing glances of solidarity. The customers, initially shocked, seemed to get the gist of the drama. Meanwhile, I focused on rebuilding. I poured my energy back into my restaurant. I expanded the menu, started a new marketing campaign. I finally had the emotional and financial bandwidth to truly grow my business without a leech draining it. I took a well-deserved vacation, my first real one in years, and ended up meeting an investor who was incredibly impressed with my restaurant's model. We started discussing plans for a second location. Months passed. The updates on Bethany's life were almost too perfect. Without my income and with her history of never paying for anything, she quickly spiraled financially. She couldn't afford the rent on the apartment, lost her job at the boutique. Apparently, she spent more time on her phone planning her future wealth than actually working, and after her parents realized she had been planning to commit financial fraud against me, they finally cut her off completely. She was evicted from the apartment, lost her job, and ended up having to move back in with her parents, unemployed and bitter. The grand, expensive wedding she planned to use as her springboard to riches became the symbol of her utter financial and personal collapse. Looking back, the cancelled wedding was the biggest blessing in disguise of my entire life. It allowed me to escape a truly toxic, manipulative, and potentially financially devastating relationship. It forced me to face uncomfortable truths about my own naivety and the red flags I ignored, but it ultimately made me stronger, smarter, and more resilient. I learned the importance of listening to my gut, of valuing genuine character over superficial charm, and of protecting what I've worked so hard for. My restaurant is doing better than ever, the plans for a second location are solidifying, and I'm surrounded by people who genuinely care about me. I'm building a life based on honesty, hard work, and real connection. As for Bethany, her master plan blew up spectacularly in her face. The best revenge isn't just living well, it's living so well that you no longer care about the past. And I truly, deeply, don't.